We appreciate Jim Nieman, a member of the Effingham County Board, being our guest today to discuss communications, or lack of it, among the law enforcement agencies in Effingham County. It's a topic that's gained a lot of attention in recent months. Jim has a unique perspective in that he's not only on the county board, but he's a longtime city police officer, so he's seen this from two different points of view: the fiscal point of view, but also the emergency services point of view, so he's a good guest to have for this. So Jim, could you update us on just exactly what is the status of communication, or lack of it, between the law enforcement agencies in the county?
Well, currently there isn't much communication between the two of them. They still have the 800 megahertz system operational, but the city's using Starcom and the county is switching over to a high band. It started a couple years ago with the FCC narrowing the bandwidth because of commercial purposes, cell phones and data plans and such, and law enforcement's bandwidth got narrowed. Well, they can go a lot more information by data than they can analog. So that necessitated a change from what they had to where we're at. The problem is the city followed 911 board's lead a few years ago in that they were going Starcom, and the city invested money, got grants, and off they went. Well, then the county didn't follow that lead. They went another direction, and they went with a high band, a digital high band. And now the two are not compatible. They can't talk to each other. I understand Deputy Darren Daters has taken this bull by the horns. And I understand that there is, between Barbeck, who's Motorola, and I can't remember the name of the other provider. It's World something, I think. Anyway, they're providing the VHF for the sheriff's office. They think they have a bridge, and that instead of a patch, they've tried the patch thing. It doesn't work. This bridge, the other provider said they were going to put up for free to give us a test to see if it works. If it works, it's about $30,000. But it'll take the Starcom signal, hopefully, and the VHF signal, and mix them and be able to, so that they can hear each other. It's important that the officers hear each other more now than ever, because the police department's size has been reduced because of budget cuts over the years. And when we used to have 5 officers on, now we have 3 most of the time. So they rely on the county officers to back them up, and vice versa. And it's important that the police officers are able to hear each other's communication, because it's not just somebody out there yelling for help and it goes to dispatch and it comes back out. You can hear the ongoing call, and you can hear the background noise. You can hear the stress in the officer's voice. And, you know, all right, I might need to be drifting that away, or I need to head that away right now because things are escalating. And sometimes the mere show of force, the mere presence of more law enforcement, can calm a situation down and keep somebody from being arrested or somebody from being hurt. And if it's a one-on-one fight, having been in a few of those, it gets very nasty very fast, and that's not good for anybody involved.
As you said, the city and the county work together on a number of calls. How often, let's say in a month, is it a problem where the city and the county officers who are in this situation out of their vehicles using their portables, because that's when the problem occurs, how often does that happen, say in a month?
Where they need help?
Or where they can't, where they're in a situation where they really would like to communicate to one another?
Daily.
Daily?
Daily. Evening shift, you'll have 2 county officers on, you have 3 city officers on, and that's when most of your domestics occur, usually from 8 o'clock on, sometimes earlier, but usually from 8 o'clock on till about 2 or 3 in the morning. And then if you have burglaries going on, or somebody has a DUI or a belligerent traffic stop, it's daily. And it's many times throughout the day that you're wanting to hear what's going on, or that you're hoping somebody else is listening to what's going on. Because it's very easy to get a call where you have 2 or 3 officers involved. That ties up the entire city. Now the county could be driving right by, or a county officer could have a car stop, and the city officer be a block away and not know he's jammed up until he's 2 or 3 or 4 blocks away, and then dispatch gets a hold of him.
So obviously that could potentially put an officer in danger, because if they had the proper backup, or if they knew that there was backup there, they might approach a situation differently than if they think they're the only person on the scene.
Yes, and also the public. Because, like I said, if a person, for whatever reason, is having a bad day, and this is the last straw, and things start to escalate, They always escalate. It's not usually, I don't ever remember a surprise happening where all of a sudden it went from great to bad. Things escalate. And if somebody can hear what's going on and know, hey, I need to be drifting now, even sometimes just a second car sitting at a traffic stop calms things down. If that can stop somebody, give somebody just a little bit of pause, go, okay, maybe this wasn't a good idea to escalate this thing, and then everybody goes on their way.
In the situation that you described early on in our conversation, where the 911 board was given information that StarCom was the way to go.
Yes.
The understanding is, and I've covered a lot of 911 board meetings, that the city and the county and the state all said, okay, this is the way it's going to go.
Yes.
And then at some point the situation changed. Do you understand yet what exactly happened?
I think it was a cost issue. The StarCom, it's a complicated story. It's been around for 10 or 11 years. They've been working on this. And the original thing was that they were going to build this system for the state police, and it was going to cost, I think, $30 million for Motorola to build it. Well, you know how government overruns are. From what I'm told, it went up to $300 million. And so Motorola decided, well, instead of just building the system and saying, here it is, you buy the equipment from us and you can use our system, that it became a subscriber service, much like HBO or something like that. And it was $35 a month per radio, which doesn't sound like much money. If you key the radio up one time or 1,000 times through that month, it's $35 a radio. The problem is the county has, I think they've got 40 or 50 cars. I don't think they need that many. Personally, I don't think they need the many, but even 20 cars. And then each car, the officer has a portable, but because they're so far out, they need repeaters in the car. That's another radio. And I don't think the repeater is compatible with a mobile. So now you have the mobile, the repeater, and the handheld. And now you're up to, $90 or $105 a car every month. And they saw that as, burdensome.
And being on the board, I guess you can understand about ongoing expenses as opposed to fixed one-time costs.
Yes.
So if that was the decision, it apparently was made without checking to see whether it would affect compatibility.
Apparently. That seems to be the case, or not thinking that compatibility was important. Now, I've heard the arguments, well, we still have the high band, the old high band we had when I started 30 years ago, and they have the 800 system, but they're not using it. So they can't hear each other, and you've got to be listening to what the ongoing call is, on their primary channel. It doesn't make any difference if it's like a CB. You can give them all CBs, but if they're not using that for the primary channel, then it's worthless. Now there is an argument too. Well, they have these mobile data terminals in their cars, the computers. I don't know if you've ever tried to text and drive. It's illegal for everybody else. If you've got this computer, we had a bet one time when they first put these things in the car. Who's going to be the first officer to wreck a squad car because of the mobile data terminal? Fortunately, no one ever claimed the bet. But it's distracting. You have this computer screen, and that information's popping up, but it's not in real time either. It's only as fast as the dispatcher can type it. It can go out to the server and come back. So there's a several second delay that way as well, at least several seconds. Sometimes it's minutes because dispatch gets busy. I mean, you have two dispatchers working and you get a ton of calls coming in. Sometimes it takes a while to get that loaded in because getting the information out is more important than making sure you have your data entered in the computer.
Now you made reference to a couple of things, a bridge and a patch, and
Yes.
the patch is what they're trying to use now.
Right.
Sometimes it's worked and sometimes it hasn't worked, and sometimes the audio is distorted, and so the officer really does have trouble understanding what the dispatcher's saying. But they understand someone's talking to them. At least that's better than not thinking anybody's talking to them. But it's certainly not the perfect situation.
No, it's much like the old Charlie Brown cartoon where he was talking to his teacher, wah, 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 wah. They're talking, but I'm not sure what you're saying. So then you pick up your cell phone, you call, what are you saying to me? But then with cell phone connection, only you and the dispatcher are hearing what's going on. The patch is old technology, and they're trying to use analog technology to modify a digital signal, and it's not working. And this bridge will supposedly take the signal, mix them the way they need to be mixed, and bring them out. And the technicians seem fairly confident. Global Communications, that's it.
That's that other agency.
Yes. Global seems fairly confident that this thing will work, and they're going to set it up for free to give us a shot at it. And if it works, then we're going to have to come up with 30,000, 15 from each agency. I mean, the county's strapped for money. we're going to dig it up. We just saved about 120, 130,000 a year on interest by refinancing. And the next people that come in are telling us we need to spend 100,000 for this, 100,000 for that. I'm going, well, come on, let us at least enjoy that we save the money a little bit. We're going to try and scrape the money together. If this thing works and it makes it safer for the public and the police department, that's a home run for us.
Is there a timetable by when we know that'll be implemented?
I talked to Darren the other day, and he seems confident that they're going to have this within a month or so, that we'll be able to have the bridge up for testing. And once we decide it works, then I think we got a problem solved. Now the other side of the coin is apparently only the state police, the city of Effingham, and Vandalia have gone to Starcom. Everybody else has gone to high band. So I'm not sure how long. I mean, if Starcom only has just the state police and those two agencies in the whole state, how long are they going to stay viable? Or are they going to raise the subscription? I don't have the answers to those.
Yeah, that's very interesting. You have the county on a system, you have the city on a system with the state, and they didn't used to be able to hear each other, now they can, so that was an addition. You have fire departments that are on a separate system. The ambulance service has its own communications system, and now the 911 board at this last month's meeting said we're getting out of this and everybody is on your own. Yeah. It makes for an interesting situation.
I'm not very happy with the 911 board right now, because literally this mess started with them. Now, I'm not blaming anybody. I think everybody was doing what they thought was in the best interest of the public at the time. But what we have is an unintended consequence that needs to be addressed. And saying it's not my problem isn't necessarily the answer that I was looking for. Yeah. And I understand they're saving money for this next generation thing that's coming up, and they're losing revenue because so many people are going to cell phones instead of landlines. I understand their problems, I do, and I empathize with them, but saying this isn't my problem isn't saying, hey, we're willing to help work with people to try and get this solved. That's what I wanted to hear.
One more thing I want to talk to you about, because this just happened this week as we're recording this at the county board meeting. There was a radio communications subcommittee established. You're a member, Karen Luchtefeld's a member, Jeff Simpson's a member. What's that about?
It's a subcommittee of tax and finance, and it's to basically try to see if this bridge thing will work and if we can get a solution there. If it can't, and since 911 is kind of, it's not our problem, we're taking the ball and trying to see if we can find a solution for this. I'm hoping that Darren's research and this bridge work. I'm really thinking this is the solution, but until we test it, we don't know.
Right. Jim, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate your insight.
It's my pleasure.
Jim, again, Jim Nieman is a member of the Effingham County Board, also a longtime member of the Effingham City Police Department, so he has a couple of interesting backgrounds and points of view to discuss with us today. We appreciate his time. I'm Greg Sapp.